Okay, Scott, we'll start this question. It's another follow-up. After telling the LUSD school board for years that state law required the district to classify classrooms used to provide special education services as empty and therefore available to be given away when providing space under Prop 39, the director of the charter school division admitted this year that it was instead the policy of the district. As a result, some of our most vulnerable children were receiving these services in closets and stairwells. How should Jose Col Gutierrez, director of the charter school division, be held accountable for misleading the board? Got 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. That is an event that I'll never forget at the Board of Education when he announced that no, it's not true that schools that do not have roster carrying teachers in their rooms uh, can use those rooms for purposes of IEP sessions and other uses. I remember the silence in the room. I was there. I remember the silence in the room when we heard that statement. There should be discipline done. Everybody needs to be disciplined when they do something that's really, really egregious. And saying for after all of these years, that these rooms cannot be used unless the specification was roster carrying teachers. We found that is not true. And that's a urban myth that needed to be done. And it's now the covers are pulled back. The covers are pulled back. You may not keep rooms from teachers and students just because there is
Time.
not a roster carrying teacher there. Thank you.
Dan, 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that Scott talked about urban myths because in many cases, these incidents are exactly that, urban myths, disinformation, momentary instances where someone has taken something like a meme and tried to make it public and use it in a political way to really divide public school families, public school teachers, and public schools from each other. And I think it really does point to the lack of leadership at the school board, and particularly with Scott when it comes to these issues. Time and time again on this call, we've just heard Scott say that traditional public schools versus charter public schools and really fester and promote and foment division between our public school families in Los Angeles. And I can tell you as a candidate that I do not stand for that at all. I will bring us together. LA is big enough for all of us. We need all of us to provide services to all of our students. And so that's what I stand for. And I would say that the issue of oversight just in general is a great one, because I think also very consistently, Scott has not shown the ability to provide any oversight of the different government, LA Unified departments that you're talking about, whether it's providing oversight and accountability to the charter school department, which you just mentioned, whether it is providing oversight and accountability for the Prop 28 bond funds that have been completely misused by the district, whether it is the investigation that Scott said that he would do into a fraudulent attendant practices in his own school, where there's ample evidence, where, again, I asked Scott if he has done any investigation into that yet. And lastly, I would just say, if people need evidence of the inability to do oversight, I would point no further than to the integrated pest management meeting of 2 weeks ago, where Scott provided no oversight again to toxic chemicals on school campuses. So oversight is important, and I will do that.
Okay. Scott, would you like to take a minute?
Yes, it's a terrible thing when someone keeps lying over and over and over again, no matter what they're told. We did do an investigation about Prop 28. There was $30 million returned because they thought that there may be a problem with the amount done. Mr. Carvalho has said on the last board meeting he will do an audit. He will do an audit this year because of me. And that is what we're having to do. When you talk about the integrated pest management, there is no board member who would volunteer to be on that committee to bring it up to the standards of 2024. I am the only board member who is willing to meet and be the chair of the IPM committee. And so that's just so ridiculous. And the same lies over and over again. Get some new lies. It's getting tiring. Thank you.
I would love to respond, Carl.
Good.
Yeah, I would say when we talk about someone who's not telling the truth and someone who's not being honest with the public, I would say that I do my homework and I never say anything that's not true. So if you'd let me, I would love to post a link to the most recent integrated pest management meeting where you will see Scott, who is the chair, who didn't say anything in that meeting until the very end when he just said, "Can this meeting be adjourned?" And in the meantime, there was a woman who's been a volunteer for many years at LA Unified trying to help LA Unified keep toxic chemicals away from students. And she asked over and over, just pleading and begging for more information. And why hasn't the district, after 2 years, followed its own recommendations to upgrade its safety practices? And Scott said nothing and provided no oversight. So I'd love to link that into the Zoom, and everybody can watch it for themselves and just decide like who's telling the truth and who isn't. Can I link something into the chat?
I believe that's available.
All
Scott,
right.
Scott, would you like to take another minute?
Yes, the person of whom he is speaking happens to be a friend of mine who have asked me personally to chair that committee to bring it back to life. And that who he is talking about. No names, of course, but I know exactly who he's talking about. And she will verify. She will verify that I am the person who brought this committee back to life because nobody else would do it. That's it. Thank you, Carl.